The Jeopardy Room is one of the rare Twilight Zone installments that doesn't feature any sci-fi, supernatural, or fantasy elements. It's more of an espionage action piece with a small cast and one major location pulling the viewer along. We've seen other episodes lack the zone's more bizarre concepts and still work. Does this one make for a compelling entry? Major Ivan Kuchenko is an escaped political prisoner, biding his time in a neutral country as he waits to board a plane heading to the west. Little does he know, he's being stalked by Commissar Vasilov and his assistant Boris from across the alley outside his hotel room. Vasilov begins calling him, hoping to mentally torment the Major before showing up to his room in person. At gunpoint, Vasilov admits he was tasked with killing Kuchenko, but wants to do it in a creative way. After drinking some of the wine he brought over, the Commissar insists Ivan take a sip. Kuchenko does just that and ends up knocked out. The wine was drugged after all. Vasilov built up an immunity to it over the years. When the Major wakes up, he listens to the tape left on his desk. The voice of the Commissar states that he wishes to have some fun with his prey before finishing him off. He's hidden a bomb somewhere in the room. Ivan has 3 hours to locate and disarm it. If he attempts to turn off the lights, leave the room, or stops looking, he'll be shot from across the alley, pending he doesn't trip the bomb while looking. In the event Kuchenko succeeds in disarming the device, Vasilov will let him leave the room alive. The clock is ticking. Rod Serling's teleplay sets up a situation and derives drama and suspense from it. The whole story is pretty simple and could easily function independent of the Twilight Zone. Many who have analyzed this piece before me, including its star, Martin Landau, have said it could have fit seamlessly into the Alfred Hitchcock hour that was airing during the same period. Hitchcock's Rear Window film certainly feels like it had some influence on this episode's scenario, at least on the surface. There's also a James Bond thing going on with complex death traps and Vasilov's villainous temperament.
I am to see to it that you are dead by tomorrow morning, and you shall be, Major. With a certain degree of immodesty, I am the last of the imaginative executioners.
This is the game, and these are the rules.
Richard Donner was back directing again, and some of his flair for action made its way on screen. With the Lethal Weapon movies in his future filmography, it's fun to see how he shot scenes like this in the 1960s. One impressive bit involved blasts through the window that Kuchenko was trying to hang a bed covering in front of. In his Blu-ray commentary track, Donner said there was someone with a high-pressure air gun on the other side who fired big slugs to break the glass. The sequence had to be choreographed carefully to avoid injury. It looks great, and it's fun discovering how they used to handle these kinds of stunts. Donner also mentioned that the sets were confining, but he seemed to make the most of it with shots that kept the interest level high. He wasn't a huge fan of the first half of the episode since there was so much exposition. When things got rolling, though, he admitted liking his work. With 2 actors as strong as John Van Drieland and Martin Landau, Donner said it was easy to put together captivating scenes, even if Landau was a little over the top or intense in the director's view. Russia is never mentioned directly, but considering the era this aired, it's pretty easy to see what's being implied. Martin Landau said he tried to keep his accent generic European in order to balance out John Van Drieland's natural Dutch intonations.
Well, Major, there are worse places to spend an evening in.
I know. I have been to many of them.
I think they both did a pretty good job and played up their roles to a slightly heightened reality. Landau made one previous Zone appearance in Season 1's Mr. Denton on Doomsday and remarked how seeing Rod on set was a different experience for him this time around. In his own commentary track, Landau said Serling was almost jaded at this point in the series' run. It was a far cry from the early days, where excitement and enthusiasm seemed to burst forth. Landau eventually returned for one more Twilight Zone show in the 1980s iteration. Ivan is smarter than the commissaire gave him credit for, and starts discovering clues to the bomb's whereabouts relatively quickly. Vasilov tells his assistant that the explosive device is hidden in the phone and will only go off after it rings and is picked up. The Commissar eventually calls the room several times, but Kuchenko is wise to the game and doesn't answer. When the phone begins to ring again, the Major makes a break for it. He dodges bullets while running out of the room and escaping Vasilov's clutches. Soon, the Commissar and Boris investigate the site of their failure, vowing to track the Major to his next location. The phone then rings and Boris answers to his boss's astonishment. The room explodes, killing the agents. On the other end is Ivan. He's at the airport and can feel he's bested his pursuers. Kuchenko hangs up the phone, heading off to board a plane that's flying off to the safety of London.
No, Boris!
That's pretty much how this felt. It is an incredibly stupid thing for one of these characters to do. I know Boris wasn't set up as the smartest guy, even though he was the one who wanted to shoot Ivan and be done with it, but Vasilov explicitly told him where the bomb was and how it worked.
The explosion will only occur after the ring and the lifting of the receiver.
This could have easily been written around by not spelling out exactly where the explosive was placed. Imply it, show that Kuchenko is smart enough to know better, and let the big fireball end the episode by confirming our suspicions. I think audiences would have been able to figure it out, and this saves an iota of intelligence for Boris. What an imbecile. The scene is so stupid it really does come off as comedic. The overlay effect contributed to that feeling. Maybe they didn't have the budget for it, but in The Obsolete Man, they blew up a room from the outside and it looked excellent. I wish they could have done that here, then show the Commissar and his assistant dead with what's left of the space. Would have been so much more effective. Also, how does Ivan know they'd be in the room? Isn't it more plausible that he just killed a hotel attendant? If I want to nitpick, it was kind of too easy for the Major to escape the room in the first place. All he had to do was run out of the unlocked door. Despite Boris's moronic decision, I liked the Jeopardy Room as something of a departure from the unusual. It gave Serling a chance to branch out a bit. Richard Donner shot it well, and the acting was fun to watch. I'd recommend it as an isolated, almost mini-movie. When this episode comes around, it's safe to pick it up, unless an evil bad guy explicitly told you not to. Otherwise, you'd have a one-way ticket to the high heaven known as the Twilight Zone.